Picture this. You're at the grocery store, standing in front of dozens of chip options. You grab your usual bag without thinking twice. What if I told you that one choice could be setting the stage for inflammation in your body that won't show up for years? I've spent the last few weeks analyzing the ingredient panels on the 10 worst-selling chip brands in America, and what I discovered is going to change how you shop. The industry doesn't want you connecting these dots, but we're connecting them today. Most people think chip brands are all basically the same: potatoes, oil, salt. But that assumption is exactly what food companies are counting on. They're betting you'll never flip the bag over. Here's what actually happens. One company controls over 60% of the American salty snack market. That means whichever bag you reach for, you're probably funding the same ingredient sourcing strategy. Today, I'm showing you the 10 brands you should never buy again, ranked by how many problems each one actually contains. And then I'll introduce you to 4 options that don't compromise. By the time we're done, you'll know exactly which ingredient names to look for, the ones hiding in plain sight on packages everyone trusts. Let's start with number 10 and work our way to something that's honestly shocking. Number 10. Classic potato chips. The most trusted bag in America comes with a hidden problem almost nobody knows exists. When potatoes hit the fryer at high temperatures, a chemical called acrylamide forms. This isn't a minor ingredient. It's classified as a probable human carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. One standard serving size contains detectable levels. If you're eating a bag per week, your cumulative exposure compounds over months and years. But acrylamide isn't even the real story here. Look at the frying oils. Owsley's rotates through vegetable oil blends that typically include cottonseed oil. Cotton isn't grown as a food crop. It's treated as an industrial plant, which means it gets sprayed with pesticide concentrations that would be illegal on crops destined for human consumption. The resulting oil carries some of the highest pesticide residue levels in the entire seed oil category. FDA regulations allow this because of how the classification works. Technically, it's not food, so different rules apply. Then there's the sodium density. 1 ounce delivers roughly 150 milligrams. A single-serve bag at a gas station pushes 300 milligrams. Americans average 3,400 milligrams daily, while the recommended limit is 2,300. One convenience store purchase gets you 13% of your daily allowance in a product that takes 5 minutes to eat. Your blood pressure system doesn't perceive that as salt going in your body over hours. It processes it as a sudden spike. The ingredient panel lists natural and artificial flavors. That regulatory language is a loophole. Manufacturers can hide dozens of distinct flavor compounds behind those 2 words with zero transparency about what's actually in them. You have no way to know. Lay's sold in Europe uses single-origin oils and completely different seasoning architecture. Same parent company, 2 different products depending on geography. Number 9. Sun Chips Original. Sun Chips markets itself as the healthier option. The bag has sunflowers on it. It feels lighter. The messaging specifically communicates that you're choosing something better. That's intentional branding. The reality is different. The ingredient panel reveals 3 separate forms of added sugar in a chip that should contain 0 sugar, sugar, dextrose, and maltodextrin. These arrive through different ingredient declarations, so the front of the bag can say only 2 grams of sugar, when you're actually consuming a blend specifically designed to trigger reward pathways in your brain. There's also a double-stacked sodium inosinate and guanylate system. These compounds amplify umami flavor perception by 10 to 20 times compared to salt alone. Research shows they can trigger excessive consumption patterns because they activate your brain's satiety signals differently than natural flavors do. Essentially, your body's stop-eating mechanism doesn't trigger the same way. The oils include canola, corn, and soybean. All seed oils that have undergone industrial extraction processes involving hexane solvents. While the solvent is theoretically removed, trace residues remain detectable in final products. European manufacturers using mechanical pressing methods for oil extraction are required to disclose when they do. American manufacturers using solvent extraction aren't. Sun Chips are positioned as the responsible choice. They're actually an engineered product designed to feel responsible while maintaining the same additive structure as conventional chips. Number 8. Cheez-Its. Original Cheez-Its live in the cracker aisle, but functionally they're consumed identically to chips, straight from the box, by the handful, during afternoon snacking sessions. The ingredients reveal why they matter on this list. The preservative system uses TBHQ, tertiary butylated hydroquinone, derived from petroleum. The FDA permits it up to 0.02% of oil content. Japan prohibited it outright. Animal studies show it triggers liver enlargement, behavioral changes, and immune suppression. A 2017 peer-reviewed study found TBHQ reduced immune response to vaccines in animal models. Not theoretical concern, actual immunological impact from a preservative in a snack cracker. The sodium loads 230 milligrams per serving, climbing to 320 in the single-serve packets. The label claims real cheese, which is technically true. Cheese appears somewhere in the ingredient list, but it sits below flour and oil. You're eating oil-soaked flour with cheese as a footnote, preserved with a compound functioning as a biohazard by international standards. Sodium also shows on the front as part of branding, only 140 calories. That marketing tells you the calorie story, while hiding the sodium density story. It's mathematically honest and strategically misleading simultaneously. Number 7. Fritos corn chips. Fritos present themselves as a simple product: corn, salt, and oil. The ingredient label confirms this simplicity. What it doesn't communicate is what happens when corn undergoes deep frying at temperature. Acrylamide concentrations in corn chips routinely exceed those found in potato chips. The frying duration and temperature for getting that characteristic Fritos texture creates more of this classified carcinogen than other preparation methods produce. A study published in peer-reviewed research found corn-based fried snacks among the highest acrylamide contributors in typical American diets. One serving of Fritos delivered measurable exposure. The oils include a rotating blend of corn, soybean, and cottonseed. That flexibility means the formula can change between production runs without altering what's printed on the package. You could buy the same Fritos box twice and actually receive different oil formulations. Manufacturers aren't required to update labels when they switch between approved ingredient options. The sodium density reaches 170 milligrams per ounce, high relative to serving size. But the psychology works differently with Fritos. They feel lighter than potato chips, fewer calories per serving, somehow cleaner. That perception drives larger total consumption in a single sitting. The calorie math still compounds even if each chip weighs less. Number 6. Tostitos scoops. Tostitos positions itself as the chip you share. Party packaging, social messaging, positioning as the communal snack. This creates the exact consumption pattern that maximizes total additive and sodium intake. The ingredient panel lists 3 separate added sugars, all present in a savory corn chip. Sugar appears first, followed by dextrose and corn syrup solids. That layering is intentional food science. Different sugar sources trigger different metabolic pathways and dopamine responses. When manufacturers stack multiple sweetness sources, they're engineering a flavor intensity that doesn't occur in naturally occurring foods. The seasoning system includes both monosodium glutamate and the sodium inosinate/guanylate combination. This creates what food scientists call a flavor amplification cascade. The compounds interact with each other to produce umami perception that exceeds what would be possible from any single ingredient. It's engineered to make stopping eating extraordinarily difficult. The scooped shape increases surface area for oil absorption, which sounds minor until you realize it means each chip carries additional fat density compared to flat chips. That contributes to longer satiety suppression. Your brain reads the fat signal differently when it's distributed across more surface area. One bag of Tostitos scoops serves roughly 4 people traditionally. That same bag contains the sodium equivalent of consuming salty meals 6 times over in one sitting. The brand positioning as social and responsible masks the actual additive load. Number 5. Doritos Nacho Cheese. Doritos represents food engineering at scale. The ingredient panel contains over 30 separate ingredients for a product marketed as corn, cheese flavoring, and salt. That gap between marketing and reality is the actual story. Among those 30-plus ingredients, 3 synthetic petroleum-derived dyes that carry mandatory warning labels in the European Union. Yellow 5, yellow 6, and red 40 all appear on this single product. In Europe, packages carrying these dyes must print "may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children." That requirement exists because research demonstrated statistically significant increases in hyperactive behavior when children consumed these specific dyes. No equivalent warning exists in America despite identical science. The flavor system stacks MSG, sodium inosinate, and sodium guanylate, the same triple-reinforced umami architecture we've seen elsewhere, but more aggressively deployed. Research shows this combination creates reward activation so intense that consuming the product interferes with normal satiety signaling. Put differently, it makes your brain ignore signals to stop eating. There are 2 forms of added sugar hidden inside a savory chip. Sugar and corn syrup solids appear on the label despite zero reason for their presence in a cheese-flavored snack. They're there specifically to enhance the flavor engineering. Doritos sold in the United Kingdom uses natural food colorants derived from paprika extract and annatto instead of synthetic dyes. Doritos sold in the European Union uses beet juice instead of red 40. Identical branding, identical positioning, completely different formulations. The company proved it could make this product without synthetic dyes. Americans are receiving a different product by design, not by necessity. If you've ever experienced sudden heartburn after eating Doritos, that's the combination of acidity from citric acid, the high sodium, the additives, and the processed corn combination, triggering gastric irritation. That's not an accident of flavor. It's a side effect of the ingredient combination. Number 4. Funyuns Original. Funyuns are named after onions. That's the entire marketing premise. They're onion-flavored rings. The ingredient panel tells a completely different story about what you're actually eating. Onion powder sits near the bottom of the ingredient list, well below cornmeal, 3 separate seed oils, salt, cornstarch, maltodextrin, and MSG. The product is named after an ingredient that functions as a minor note in the overall formulation. That's strategic labeling. Nothing is technically dishonest, but the communication creates a false perception about what comprises the majority of what you're eating. The seasoning system incorporates 4 separate artificial dyes in the Flamin Hot variety: Yellow 5 Lake, Yellow 6 Lake, Blue 1 Lake, and Red 40 Lake. Those lake designations mean the dyes are chemically bonded to aluminum substrates for distribution through oil-based flavorings. You're consuming petroleum-derived colorants suspended in aluminum compounds, each one restricted or banned in multiple developed nations. Even the original unflavored variety contains hidden sugar at ingredient position 3. A plain corn snack shouldn't contain sugar, yet it's formulated with maltodextrin and sugar stacked together. That combination extends beyond flavor. It's designed to create a specific mouthfeel that encourages continued consumption. The corn oil includes diacetyl for buttery flavoring. Diacetyl is a compound that, when inhaled in industrial settings, causes bronchiolitis obliterans, a serious lung condition. While ingestion is different from inhalation exposure, the chemical toxicity profile remains concerning, particularly for children whose developing respiratory systems are more susceptible to chemical irritants. Number 3. Cheetos Flamin Hot. Flamin Hot Cheetos is where the engineering becomes undeniable because the health consequences are now clinically documented across multiple hospital systems. Pediatric emergency departments in California, Texas, and New Mexico have reported epidemic-level increases in gastritis and acid reflux cases directly linked to Flamin Hot Cheeto consumption. Reports from children's hospitals document multiple presentations daily, some arriving with symptoms mimicking gastrointestinal bleeding. The clinical presentations became so common that physicians began specifically asking about snack chip consumption during intake interviews. The ingredient panel lists 4 separate artificial colors. Yellow 6 appears twice, once as a standard dye, once as a lake formulation in the same product. That's 2 distinct chemical formulations of the same color compound in a single bag. The redundancy serves no functional purpose except to intensify color saturation. 5 separate flavor-enhancing compounds layer together: MSG, sodium inosinate, sodium guanylate, yeast extract, and sodium diacetate. This creates what researchers call flavor complexity, a multidimensional taste experience so intense that it overrides normal satiety mechanisms. The heat from chili pepper compounds interacts with the sodium and flavor enhancers to create a compound effect that's geometrically more stimulating than any single ingredient would produce. The Environmental Working Group classifies Flamin Hot Cheetos as Nova Group 4 ultra-processed food, flagging 4 ingredients among their highest concern additives. That's not opinion, that's data-driven analysis of additive safety concerns. School districts in Illinois, California, and New Mexico have banned these chips from school grounds since 2012. Multiple states, multiple school districts, independent decisions about the same product. That's institutional recognition that these specific chips present documented health risks to children. One bag delivers approximately 2,500 milligrams of sodium, a full day's worth in one sitting, combined with the flavor engineering making stopping extraordinarily difficult. You're consuming a single-serving product that's actually multiple days of sodium in a format specifically engineered to make portion control almost impossible. Number 2. Takis Fuego. Takis concentrates more additive density into a single product than anything else currently on retail shelves. If you've been following the pattern through this entire list, Takis represents where that pattern reaches its maximum intensity. The ingredient panel reads like a chemistry textbook. The quadruple-stacked glutamate system combining MSG, hydrolyzed soy protein, yeast extract, and sodium inosinate, paired with sodium guanylate. This represents the most aggressive flavor amplification engineering in the snack category. Research shows sodium inosinate and guanylate can amplify umami perception 10 to 20 times beyond MSG baseline. This product stacks all of them together. TBHQ preserves the oils, the same petroleum-derived preservative that Japan banned outright and that research associates with immune suppression and endocrine disruption. 2 aluminum-bonded petroleum-derived dyes appear on the label. In the blue heat variety, a third dye adds to the load. Every single one of those dyes would require mandatory warning labels in the European Union. None require warnings in America, despite identical scientific evidence. The sodium reaches 390 milligrams per ounce. A standard 4-ounce bag delivers 1,560 milligrams, 68% of an entire day's recommended sodium intake in a single sitting. The packaging size and messaging encourage consumption that maximizes this sodium load in one session. The vegetable oil declaration doesn't commit to a specific oil. The formula can shift between palm, soybean, and canola between production batches without label updates. You could purchase this product twice and receive different fat sources without any indication on packaging. Multiple pediatric hospitals have documented regular Takis consumption, linked to emergency room visits for gastritis, severe acid reflux, and gastrointestinal distress in children and teenagers. The product is marketed aggressively to younger consumers through bright packaging, social media campaigns targeting teens, and positioning as an extreme flavor experience designed for young people. Marketing that targets children, ingredients engineered to override satiety signals, sodium density that far exceeds safe consumption in a single sitting, banned preservatives, and documented emergency room visits. That's why this takes the second position. Number 1. Pringles Original Pringles sits on shelves next to potato chips. Consumers treat them as potato chips. The FDA doesn't permit that classification. Pringles cannot legally be called potato chips because actual potato comprises only 42% of the final product. The remainder is manufactured dough constructed from corn flour, cornstarch, rice flour, and wheat starch, all pressed into that recognizable curved shape. That distinction matters because processed starch blends behave differently metabolically than whole potato. The glycemic impact is higher, the nutrient density is lower, and the additive load is concentrated across a smaller food matrix. The oil system uses 5 separate vegetable sources. That flexibility means formulation can change without label notification. But more importantly, cottonseed oil appears on this list. The same industrial-use crop carrying concentrated pesticide residues. Cotton cultivation is subject to pesticide regulations completely different from food crop regulations. The residue loads in cottonseed oil exceed those in other seed oils by measurable margins. The product contains monosodium glutamate, paired with yeast extract, the flavor amplification layering pattern we've identified throughout this investigation. Wheat starch sits in the formulation, making this a hidden gluten source. Despite that, prominent allergen callouts don't appear on the can's front. Consumers with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity purchasing Pringles as a potato product discover the gluten content only in fine print, if at all. In 2010, a salmonella contamination at a supplier triggered a recall of specific Pringles flavors. That event revealed what complex manufacturing chains actually mean. More processing steps, more suppliers, more potential contamination points. When a product requires 30 steps to manufacture and move through distribution, that structural complexity creates inherent food safety risks that simpler products don't face. Pringles in the United Kingdom use sunflower oil exclusively and yeast extract for flavor without the MSG pairing. The American formula maintains the 5-oil blend and the layered glutamate system. Same brand, same parent company, completely different products depending on where you live. The recognizable packaging creates trust. Most consumers have never examined the actual contents. That gap between brand recognition and ingredient reality is precisely where the problem exists. You recognize the can. You've never read the label. That's by design. Now here's what actually connects all of this. 8 of these 10 products come from a single company controlling 60% of the American salty snack market. When you're cycling through LA-wise, Doritos, Cheetos, Ruffles, Fritos, Tostitos, and Sun Chips, you're fundamentally buying variations of the same ingredient architecture in different shapes and flavors. The chip aisle looks like abundance. Chemically and nutritionally, it's monotony distributed across different packaging. That singular market concentration means most Americans eating chips are consuming the same seed oil blends, the same layered flavor enhancement systems, and the same additive combinations regardless of which bag they select. The illusion of choice masks the reality of identical ingredient strategies. Before showing you what actually works, I want to be clear about something important. Like this video, if this changes how you think about snack shopping. It helps other viewers find this before their next grocery store visit.